Tansei, I'm Natasha. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. The Mi'kmaq continue to protect the highlands in Cape Breton, setting up a camp with a checkpoint to prevent clear cutting that is destroying the forest ecosystem. However, RCMP are patrolling the area as the Mi'kmaq take their own initiative to protect the mountains. APTN's Angel Moore reports.
Okay, so everybody's detained right now for a mischief investigation.
For what?
Whatever was happening at Nova Scotia.
There's nothing happening.
That was Corporal Holly Murphy speaking to Mi'kmaq land protectors on a road in Hunters Mountain, Unamagi, Mi'kmaq for Cape Breton. Ashton Bernard and other land protectors were driving to the site where Bernard shot his first moose to harvest medicine when the RCMP pulled them over.
And then DNR actually blocked the road off from us, and the cops come out from the woods and detained all of us. But other than that, they're just, bothering the native people here.
About 2 weeks ago, Mi'kmaq land protectors seized the wood from 3 logging trucks to stop the clear cutting that they say is destroying the moose habitat, water flow, and traditional medicines. They have since set up a camp with a checkpoint to protect the forest.
The Unamagi Highlands, this is our resources, and we let these big corporations destroy our hunting grounds and our medicine grounds. It's just heartbreaking, because I shot my first moose at Windmill Road, and now it's just a memory. It's not there anymore.
Jaime Baptiste is from the Eskazoni First Nation and a Liberal MP. He was touring the mountain when he came across the police stopping the Mi'kmaq land protectors. The RCMP offered tobacco to Baptiste and left. No one was detained. Baptiste says he is here to support the Mi'kmaq.
I've seen for myself, I've heard the concerns, and we know that this place means more than just trees and moose. It's sacred areas for these people, which they've passed down their knowledge for generations, and we want to figure out how we can do it into the future.
The land protectors showed Baptiste this open pit of the Nova Scotia Power Reservoir Dam near Wreck Cove in Hunters Mountain. They say the Mi'kmaq people were not consulted and are fed up with the government. Baptiste says he understands the distrust.
We're here to listen, and when we were invited by people to come up here and see what's going on, I always feel like in any kind of animosity between Mi'kmaq and the province or members of that it's incumbent upon me to be there and see for myself what's going on and not just take someone else's word for it.
Nearby in the bushes is where Fred Siliboy's son, Chris, shot his first moose. Sadly, Chris died from cancer in 2008 when he was 19 years old.
It was given to me by moose hunters of Eskazoni and the hunters of the Hunters Mountain. It's a plaque in honor and memorial, sacred tree for my son, which he shot his first moose at the age of 12.
But the sacred tree was a victim of clear cutting. Siliboy was heartbroken.
My gut fell to the ground. I was so upset, so mad, angry and mad. I got here, looked at the tree, and then when I was looking over to the side, I could see all the construction that was going on. And these guys were cutting trees and they were on their excavators.
To help protect the forest, the camp has grown to about 100 people, including elders and youth, with Mi'kmaq teachings, including cleaning hide and drawing medicines. The movement has led to people coming together to protect Mi'kmaq lands. Amy Maloney is from the Spaganagity First Nation.
And we all stood there and we all were singing from the bottom of our hearts and the top of our lungs, the honor song. And that coming on Hunters Mountain was an overwhelming feeling of pride, real Indigenous pride.
Youth came to dance for the elders and community members, who all have memories from the mountains, including Elder Douglas Denny from the Eskazoni First Nation. He harvested lumber in the mountains with his dad's company.
We have to protect our forest, sure, I believe that, and I support these guys. And but the forest got to be protected, and got to be managed properly.
Port Hawkesbury paper has since paused clear cutting. They told APTN News they are working with the Nova Scotia chiefs and Mi'kmaq associations on a holistic ecosystem-based forestry. Siliboy hopes his son's story will help save the mountain.
I'm feeling, I never thought I'd be standing here and explaining my story about my son and the hurt that I went through with him and the hurt my people are going through with the sacred mountain.
The land protectors are staying put and plan to build a permanent camp to protect their lands. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Hunters Mountain, Unama'ki.
There are more questions surrounding the financial affairs in the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations. Recently leaked information from a forensic audit is asking the organization that represents the chiefs of 74 First Nations in Saskatchewan where tens of millions of dollars has gone. CTV's Keenan Sorokin reports.
The Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations is being asked to explain more than $34 million in expenses. A leaked photo of a forensic audit presentation from an Indigenous Services Canada investigation shows questionable, ineligible, and unsupported transactions dating back to April 1st of 2019. The audit performed by KPMG reviewed more than $47 million in transactions, flagging more than $34 million worth of them, separating $3.7 million as ineligible, more than $30 million as questionable, and $155,000 as unsupported. The FSIN did not respond to CTV's request for a comment and refused to allow any questions about the audit at a news conference for a separate matter Monday. But Premier Scott Moe addressed the audit after landing in Saskatoon from his Chinese trade mission.
If there are issues, we would always be looking at ensuring that we are protecting not only the investments that Saskatchewan people are making that may relate to the FSIN, but are protecting how those investments are actually flowing to individuals and to communities.
The largest item is more than $23 million in COVID-19 funding. Another item questions nearly $8 million in administration fees. Indigenous Services says it first met with FSIN leadership in June as an opportunity to submit more documentation, then returned last week to present the findings, saying, as next steps, the audit report will be finalized and a summary letter will be sent to the Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations detailing recommendations. A summary of the audit findings will be posted to the Indigenous Services website and be available to the public by the end of the month. Keenan Sorokin, CTV News, Saskatoon.
Treaty 6 territory in Alberta has recently lost two longtime chiefs earlier this week. Nation Chief Maurice Wolfe passed away on September 11th at the age of 95. Wolfe was the last hereditary chief and the first elected chief for Ermineskin Cree Nation in 1969. He sang at powwows with the former drum group, the Pigeon Lake Singers. In the 1970s, Wolfe was instrumental in founding the Musqueam's Cultural College and helped back Indigenous-focused courses at Camrose Lutheran College. He also acted alongside his son Carmen Wolfe in the 1980s, becoming the first motion picture actors from Ermineskin. Residential school survivor and former chief of Alexis First Nation, Rod Alexis, also passed away last Saturday. He served 2 terms as chief and was first elected in 1996 and 2002. Rod's great-grandfather was the last hereditary chief of Alexis, and their great-great-grandfather signed an adhesion to Treaty 6 and evangelized the community. Chief Alexis, along with his brother Tony, invited the late Pope Francis to visit Lac St. Anne in 2016, and just 6 years later, the Pope visited there during his Canadian tour to apologize for the church's role in Canada's residential school legacy. Our sincerest condolences to both the Wolfe and Alexis family. Manitoba RCMP is asking for the public's help in locating a woman who has been missing for more than 3 weeks and was last seen in a First Nation in northern Manitoba. 31-year-old Roxanne Little was last seen at a family member's home in the fly-in community of Wasagamak First Nation, located about 600 kilometers northeast of Winnipeg. Island Lake RCMP says they didn't receive a missing persons report until September 5th and said it's possible Little may no longer be in Wasagamak and could be in the nearby communities or Winnipeg. RCMP says her family is concerned for her well-being. Last week, a ground and shoreline search was done in Wasagamak with the communities of St. Teresa Point, Garden Hill, and Red Sucker Lake First Nations all pitching in. RCMP also used a helicopter, drones, a canine unit, and boats to look for Little. Little is 5'2" with a slim build and long black hair. If anyone knows where Little is, you are asked to contact RCMP or Crime Stoppers. We're always looking for your feedback or story ideas. Here's how you can continue the conversation with us. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. And to read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. A man who was part of an art fraud ring in creating fake paintings of the late Norval Morrisseau recently appeared in an Ontario court. That story coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back. A British Columbia Environmental Assessment Certificate has been issued for a major LNG project in northwest BC. The Sea Lisms LNG project is a proposed floating liquid natural gas structure at Pearce Island right by the Alaska border. Nearly 24 conditions have been imposed that the project must follow throughout its lifespan. Key requirements include a greenhouse gas emissions plan that must meet a BC net zero policy and plans to manage impacts to wildlife and wildlife habitats. But one environmentalist says the project is too risky to move forward.
To be approving a fossil fuel project of this scale in the year 2025 is an act of insanity. Ksi Lisims LNG, let's be clear, is a massive carbon bomb.
The environmental assessment began in 2021 and was conducted on behalf of both the provincial and federal governments. The project is expected to employ 450 workers during construction and 250 people permanently. The trial of Niagara area man accused of being part of an art fraud ring that mimicked works of the late Indigenous artist Norval Morrisseau is underway in a Barrie, Ontario courtroom. CTV's Mike Arcelides brings us the details.
Jeff Cowan is accused of 6 fraud counts. For selling artworks, police say he fraudulently passed off as legitimate works of Norval Morrisseau. Arrested 2 years ago, Cowan was described by investigators as the mastermind of an art fraud ring involving hundreds of mimicked Morrisseau pieces sold around the world, some for as much as hundreds of thousands of dollars apiece. In the Crown's opening address to the jury, Crown attorney Carolyn Hackett said, "This is a trial about allegations of dishonesty about the integrity of the art, and dishonesty about the chain of ownership." The Crown said for about 15 years, starting in 2008, Cowan uttered forged documents and committed fraud by selling certain pieces of art he claimed were painted by Norval Morrisseau. The Crown told the jury witnesses will testify about buying purported Morrisseau works directly from Cowan or from others who said they had purchased them from Cowan. For decades, Morrisseau's estate has publicly battled forgeries of his works that flooded the art world following his death in 2007. Morrisseau has been described as the Picasso of the North and widely considered the grandfather of contemporary Indigenous artwork in Canada. Cowan's 2 co-accused in the case, 78-year-old David Paul Bremner and 84-year-old Jim White, pleaded guilty to fraud charges for their involvement in the scheme. Bremner admitted to creating certificates of authenticity for the works he suspected were fakes, and White to marketing and selling purported Morrisseau pieces he said came from Cowan. An expert witness of Morrisseau art, Dr. Carmen Robertson, was the Crown's first witness, telling the court about Morrisseau's significance to Indigenous art in Canada and outlined his biography and style. Morrisseau did what no other artist in his lifetime had done, including storytelling and painting his life story and tradition, she said. Cowan is representing himself in court without a lawyer. The 3-month trial is scheduled to continue tomorrow. Mike Arcelides, CTV News, Barrie.
We now want to tell you about this week's web poll question. Over on the website, we ask, with Parliament sitting again, do you think federal politicians will be able to work together to lower the price of housing and food? Your answers are yes, no, or unsure. Go to our website at www.aptnnews.ca to have your say. Anishinaabe and Finnish musician Natasha Fisher is up next to tell us how her year has been as an artist. We'll be right back. Miigwech for staying with us. St. John's 15, Charlottetown 19 and sunny. Nuujauak 12 and sun, La Grande River 17. Quebec City 19, Gaspé 19 and sunny. Toronto 23, Sault Ste. Marie smoky and 18. Smoky and Thunder Bay at 21, Wawa 20. Puckatawagan 18, Norway House rain and 18. Gimli partly cloudy and 20, Winnipeg sunny and 22. Swift Current 14, Regina 14. Meadow Lake smoky there as well at 14, La Ronge rain and 16. Grand Prairie 30, Fort McMurray 23. Lethbridge 28, Red Deer 28. Campbell River 20, Bella Coola 9. Sandspit 14, Prince George 28. Old Crow showers and 8, Dawson 13. Fort Simpson 26, Wrigley 19. Paulatuck 10, Tuktoyaktuk 9. Baker Lake showers and 4, Chesterfield sunny and 5. And Arctic Bay -6, Iqaluit 3. Our next guest is Anishinaabe and Finnish singer-songwriter Natasha Fisher, who currently resides in Toronto.
Take a sip, take a stride, subtle confidence. Big brown-eyed Gemini, giving me compliments.
She recently opened for Asanabi earlier this year and performed at this year's I Dream Awards in Sankofa Square in downtown Toronto. Through her music, she captures the intensity of heartbreak, healing, and self-discovery while incorporating her Anishinaabe roots. And she makes an effort to travel to First Nation communities to perform and talk about issues like addictions and mental health. She also already has about 10 songs available on most streaming services, with one of those songs being a cover of Ernest Monias's If I Wanted You Girl. We recently spoke to Natasha Fisher from Hamilton. Here's that interview. Natasha Fisher, thank you so much for speaking with us, and happy to have you on the show again since last February. Can you explain why you wanted to pursue a career in music?
Yeah, I guess music was one of the only things that I really truly connected with. I was always shy about talking about my feelings and some of the things that I was going through, and music just gave me another tool to deal with my emotions and to talk about things that were going on in my life, but in an indirect way. So I really connected, and it was in a way that I made friends and connected with others and connected with my community.
I like that answer, and I can definitely relate to that. Can you talk about who are some of the people who inspired you to take that leap of faith to do music?
Yeah, I was really lucky. I grew up in Thunder Bay, and I was really lucky to have amazing role models. I had a role model named Ron Knitsky who took me on the road as a youth to go and perform and sing at communities in Northern Ontario. And then I also had a mentor named Robin Ranger, and he taught me everything about performance. He was a jazz musician, and he taught me ear training. We would play with a stand-up bass and go around Thunder Bay and play all these shows. So I was really lucky to have some good Indigenous mentors growing up that were doing it and living it, and I got to learn through them.
Some first-hand real-life experience, eh?
Yeah.
And briefly, Natasha, what are some of the topics that are close to your heart that you sing about?
Like I said, I'm not very good at talking about my feelings. I've been really emotionally guarded and shy throughout my life, and it's led me to really unhealthy coping mechanisms. I struggled with addiction, I struggled with my mental health, and through sobriety I've found that music has been a tool to be able to share my story as somebody who is sober and somebody who is living that Manitoba Modswin, that good life. So I've just been talking about mental health, addiction, and reclaiming who I am, and just reconnection in every way possible.
Definitely important topics there. And earlier in the year, Natasha, you got to open up for Asanabi. What was that opportunity like for you?
Oh man, I was really nervous. I think that was one of the biggest shows that I'd ever done. It was at the Axis Club in Toronto, or the Mod Club, and it was a sold out show. And I got out there and all of these Anishinaabe fans were in the audience, and it was a full packed house, and it was received really well. And I feel like that first show just started this like chain event, and I got to open for Tia Wood after. I got to do a bunch of other shows in and around the GTA, so it just was a really good kickstart to my career, and I'm so grateful to Anishinaabe and his team.
Shout out to Anishinaabe. You also performed at the Runway of Resilience in Toronto, where you got to meet so many other talented Indigenous artists and actors over the weekend. How was that for you?
Oh, that was another one that I was so nervous for. It was like a star-studded event. You know, there was all of these people that like I had seen on TikTok or social media or like in movies. Adam Beach was there, like half the cast of Res Dogs was there. So like as a Indigenous fan who's like a fan of Indigenous media, just even being in that room alone was overwhelming and inspiring. But then to be able to share my gift and be up there and talk about what I've been doing and share the songs that I've made, it was just, I don't know, I was overwhelmed. And I was really nervous at first, but once I stepped out there I realized it's all community. I saw some familiar faces, and we rocked it. It was a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And finally, Natasha, what is your words of advice for other Indigenous artists who want to get into music but don't know how?
I don't know if anyone really knows the right way to do it either. I think just starting, creativity, it just starts from within. Use whatever resources you have. We have all of the resources we could need on our phones, in our pockets at this day and age. So just start creating, whether that be like singing in your room and singing to YouTube videos, singing on social media. Like there's just so much opportunity just to share your gift with the world in the palm of our hands these days. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Art is messy. Art, I don't even know half the time how a song's gonna start. When I start it, it just comes out. So I think just acknowledging that creativity is a right for everyone, and we all should use it and share it with the world. It's a beautiful thing.
Natasha Fisher, we wish you all the best on your music journey, and thank you so much for being here.
Jimmy Gwetch, thank you.
And that's your daytime newscast. Tiara Wheatley is back for your evening newscast in a few hours, including a story on the Assembly of First Nations and their reaction to the upcoming federal budget. Please join us then. From our HQ in downtown Winnipeg, Masi Cho Mi Gwetch Hi Hi. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next day.